In the heart of Chicago, there once stood a hospital that promised hope. Its sign shined bright, its staff wore clean white coats, and its motto read, "Where healing begins." But the locals had another name for it. They called it the morgue with hallways. Because for decades, stories whispered the same terrifying truth. Patients checked in healthy, sometimes for the simplest procedures, and yet, too often, they left in black bags. The hospital was called Ravenwood Medical Center. Built in 1912, it was designed to be state-of-the-art, wide corridors, high ceilings, and the newest surgical equipment. For years, it was a symbol of modern medicine. But behind its pristine walls, something sinister lurked. The first rumors started in the 1930s. Families complained their loved ones went in for routine checkups and never came home. One man checked in for a broken arm. 3 days later, he was declared dead from complications. Another woman went in for a minor surgery. Hours later, her body was wheeled to the morgue. The official cause? Always vague, always unexplained. But the staff? They never seemed surprised. Some claimed the doctors at Ravenwood were experimenting using patients as test subjects for unapproved drugs and risky procedures. In an era before strict regulations, hospitals had freedom. Too much freedom. By the 1950s, Chicago residents whispered warnings. Don't go to Ravenwood. Even if you're bleeding, don't go there. Because the odds of walking out alive were slim. Nurses who worked inside reported chilling details. Patients restrained to beds long after their treatments ended. Screams echoing down corridors at night, and rooms that were sealed off without explanation. One nurse confessed in her diary that she saw doctors inject a man with a clear liquid, then calmly watch as he convulsed and flatlined. They wrote it off as heart failure, but she knew better. Then came the 1967 scandal. A journalist uncovered hospital records showing Ravenwood had one of the highest mortality rates in the country. And yet funding poured in. How? Why? The answer was darker than anyone imagined. It turned out Ravenwood had deep ties to pharmaceutical companies. They were paid to test experimental drugs on patients without consent. If patients died, the records were altered. If they survived, their bodies were scarred by treatments no human should endure. The story made headlines, but strangely, no one was arrested. The hospital kept operating, and the deaths kept piling up. By the 1980s, Ravenwood gained a new reputation. Locals didn't just fear it, they believed it was cursed. Families swore that even those admitted for observation would mysteriously die overnight. Some claimed the walls themselves seemed to breathe, that shadows moved along the ceilings when no one was there. Security guards told of elevators that opened on empty floors, of morgue drawers sliding open by themselves, and of one operating room where the lights flickered violently whenever a patient died. One chilling story came from 1992, when a healthy teenager checked in for a sports injury. His parents kissed him goodnight, expecting surgery in the morning. Hours later, they were told he suffered a sudden seizure. He was gone. The parents demanded answers, but staff refused to show records, claiming the files were lost. The family sued, but the case disappeared in court, just like so many before it. By the early 2000s, Ravenwood was a ghost of itself. Fewer patients came, nurses left in droves. And yet, the deaths never stopped. Then, in 2009, the final blow came. A whistleblower released photos from inside the hospital, images of rooms filled with unmarked vials, surgical trays stained with dried blood, and a hidden basement ward where patients were strapped to beds, motionless, hooked to machines, but with no records in the system. The public was outraged. Investigations were launched. And finally, after nearly a century of whispers, Ravenwood Medical Center shut its doors. But that's not where the story ends. Because after the closure, urban explorers broke inside. They filmed hallways littered with old charts, X-rays left scattered on the floor, and rooms where stretchers sat in place as if abandoned mid-shift. What's worse, they claimed to hear sounds, the beeping of monitors that had been shut off for years, the shuffle of footsteps behind them, and one explorer swore he caught a glimpse of a figure in a lab coat, staring from the end of a corridor. When he blinked, it was gone. Today, the building still stands, boarded up, forgotten, but locals swear that at night, you can still see lights flickering in its windows, and sometimes, if the wind is right, you can hear faint screams carried out onto the street. For many, Ravenwood wasn't just a hospital. It was a machine, a place that turned the living into the dead. And though its doors are closed, its reputation will never die, because in Chicago, the legend still lingers. A hospital where patients checked in healthy and left in bags. If you ever find yourself driving past the old building, don't look too long, don't stop. And whatever you do, never step inside. Because some halls were built for healing and others were built for death. For more haunting stories and unsolved mysteries, subscribe to Shadow Oath and tell me, would you dare walk the halls of Ravenwood?